Surprise! It's thunder, if you didn't already know. Buckskins, baby. Been thinking about how cool buckskins are. Every time I read a Western novel or see a Western movie and all of a sudden the Indians appear, some of the costumes were pretty nice. They were pretty close to what they really actually wore. The buckskin with the fringe, and then you read some of the books, Western books, and then you start getting excited. I do when the character in there either comes into contact with native people or takes on their ways, lives with them for a while, really gets into that way of thinking, and I call it the buckskin mentality, because even the mountain men, had that mentality, and the ones that were trackers and scouts and all that stuff, most of them learned from either some native they ran into, or there was a friend of theirs, and some natives were predisposed to taking the whites under their wing and teaching them things, even on spiritual levels. So, any day, buckskins as opposed to black suits, I'll take the buckskins, or buckskins opposed to. And then when some of these characters, when they started meeting with the Indians, they figured, that their other clothes that they were wearing were not what they really wanted. They wanted to get into buckskins, and sometimes the squaws in the village would make them, their shirts would wear out if they lived with them for any amount of time, and so the squaws would make them a buckskin shirt. Next thing you know, they're in buckskins, There's a tradition today, where people get together at what they call rendezvous, and like they had in the old days, and everybody's wearing buckskin, and everybody's outfitted with the stuff they used in the old days to live outside and cook outside, and all that good stuff. I haven't been watching the news too much lately. I went to a couple of YouTube channels that sometimes I used to go to get info, and sometimes I look at these channels and I go, why did I ever go there? I don't know, lately I've been seeing more and more and more that there's some kind of political agenda, or that the people that are doing these, the main channels, I've mentioned them before. I'm not going to mention anybody's name. I think everybody knows who's out there, and there's one guy that talks about liberty, and then there's another guy that talks about watching over the USA. What does that tell you right there? Anytime, you got a word like liberty or USA or in there, in the title of who you are, what does that tell you? It tells you they're caught up in politics, the political structure and all that good shit, which isn't good shit at all. It's bogus. And then I noticed also too that they talk in a manner to like bait you, to either race bait you, or make you play the political card, or get you involved in some kind of mentality that is not conducive to your peace of mind. You know, now Thunder can come on here, and I can say things about Putin and stuff, but I don't like get my face about 1 inch from the camera and yell into it, which one guy does, and I'm like, man, he should just back off a little. That to me is almost like an intimidation tactic. When you get your face like right up in there and you start using this on the edge, urgent language or tone of voice, or you know, just talking a mile a minute, can't even digest what they're saying, really. It's hard to see what they're saying. It's a tactic, okay? And I see right through it. So I'd be careful what you watch, people. Just telling you. I'm telling you what to do. And then most of these people, they have like 3,000-4,000 hits, and I'm wondering, well, wow. A lot of people are buying into this or something, I don't know, or maybe they're paying somebody off, or I don't know how you got to be paying somebody off or doing something somewhere to get that many viewers. But then when you look at the viewers, you look at the quality. Okay. Now you look at some of my videos. I'm not trying to promote myself here or anything. I'm just trying to show you the difference, okay, between Thunder here and some of the other people out there. And I don't really care. I'm kind of caring less and less about how many hits I get and all that stuff. I do like comments, though. Now, what I was going to say, though, you look at the comments on my videos, and the people are nice, and they're pretty nice. They say intelligent things. So does that give you a clue as to who watches my videos? People with some brains, people that think. I appreciate you people, even if it's just a few. I'd rather be sitting around a campfire with a few people that understand than, you know, sitting in a stadium blaring my mouth off and shooting my mouth off to a bunch of people like I'm friggin' Hitler or something. That's not the Buckskin Mentality way. You know, the Buckskin Mentality way is sitting around a campfire and telling stories, and telling stories that have spiritual meaning, or communing with the medicine men and asking them what your dream meant or what your vision meant. That's what I like. And what you see out there is just kind of a hybrid, what you see on YouTube with these people wailing and whining and about this and that, and Ferguson and the financial thing, and they're almost baiting you to take sides. But yet they'll stand there and say, don't forget about divide and conquer, and then they'll just launch off onto this diatribe that brings you into that mentality of divide and conquer. It's really about love, people. You know, and that's what it's really about. You know, it's about love, and all kinds of love. All kinds of love. Principled love, erotic love, romantic love. It's just a good feeling. You know, and love and reverence for nature. You know, as far as reverence for your fellow man, well, that should be a given, but don't cast your pearls, if you know what I mean. It's better to be a loner sometimes. Like a lot of the mountain men, and some of the Indians, like even Crazy Horse was kind of a loner. He would go off. He hardly ever stayed in the village. His real name, when he was younger, was Gigi, which means light hair, because he had lighter hair than the rest. And he was often made fun of, but he grew up to be just awesome. But he made a habit of going out in the pine trees or to some grassy knoll and just sitting there for like 2-3 days, reflecting. And when he went into battle, or when he went and counted coup, or when he went out, he never celebrated his victories when he came back. He just sat back in the trees and watched everybody else whooping it up and telling about how they counted coup on this person, that person. He was a loner. And he had many visions. Okay. So it's better to be a loner. It's better to be. Sometimes people get lonely. Sometimes people are alone. Maybe you just have to reframe it to where you're a loner, a lone wolf. Okay, in the pack, the lone wolf. I always like that concept. The lone wolf. Okay. Almost sounds like a name. The Lone Wolf Society. Hey, there you go. Kind of like the Silent Eaters, which was a society of the Lakota people. All these tribal people had their little separate societies of elders, or people that sat in council and directed the tribal, every day. They kept the tribe safe, basically. They didn't direct them, they just kept them safe. They kept them out of harm's way, and sometimes they had to talk with the young bucks about getting too rambunctious and going raiding here and there. It's like all young men trying to sow their wild oats. Man, but I was watching this movie the other night. I like to watch old westerns, you guys know that. But the more I watch them, you get new insight, let's put it that way, every time you watch these. I like the costumes and I like some of the actors, but when you see the guys ride in with the buckskins, your heart starts speeding up a little, like, yeah. But then it always turns around where they kill a bunch of them. I don't like that part. Of course that happened, but I don't like seeing it. And there's warring on both sides. A crash of cultures. Clash. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Clash of cultures. Say that 20 times real fast. Clash of cultures, clash of cultures. No, but that's what it was. And if the white man would have just been a little bit more trying to understand the ways, that's why I say, buckskins or black suits and ties, or blue coats. How about buckskins and the blue coats with their regimental uniforms and their sabers and their it's all kind of cool from the Old West. I like all aspects of the Old West, and not all blue coats were bad. And some tried to, in the Apache Wars, guys like Britton Davis, Lieutenant Britton Davis, were very sympathetic to the Indians. In fact, they quit the Bluecoats because they didn't like how the Indians were being treated, okay? And they didn't like the lies that were being told, the untruths, the promises that were broken, that type of thing. And they were in uniform, and some of them even quit. They even quit the cavalry and the Bluecoats. They just took a walk and said, this ain't right. And Britton Davis was one of those. He's the one that went and talked to Geronimo. They sent him and one other guy, or maybe two, because they couldn't find Geronimo for years. I mean, 5,000 people couldn't find him because he was magic. He knew magic. He was a Indian mystic, only he was an Indian mystic in this country, not India, but he was a mystic and a warrior. And he could disappear into the rocks. You know, he could disappear. The Gone, the mountain spirits. See, that's the problem, is man has gotten away from that extra perception, okay? It's something that the natives, a lot of them had, because when you live next to nature, you get these perceptive abilities naturally, to hear things that other people don't hear, to see things that other people don't see, to interpret dreams and visions, to live on a whole nother spiritual plane, okay? It's like, sure, they carried about their business, they carried on with their business, and they went out hunting, and they went out trapping, and they went out and did whatever they had to do to supply food for the camp and for their families, but they devoted as much time. It was impossible for them not to be in oneness with nature, okay? And I don't know, it's something I love, that aspect of it. So we should think that way, you know, even though we might be trapped in apartments and cities or whatever. That's a wilderness too, trust me. When you go out onto the street, that's a wilderness with just as many wild animals, just as many dangers, okay, as presented themselves in the wilderness, okay, because you had rattlesnakes, okay. Well, now you have in the city, you just have backbiting snakes, or in the government, and you had outlaws, and you had sometimes you'd run into a wolf pack. They wouldn't necessarily bother you unless they were starving. You'd run into a puma or a cougar or a mountain lion, or you could run into a bear, a grizzly bear. That's how it was in the wilderness. Sometimes you didn't come out on the good end of that deal, especially with a bear. But you got these same almost archetypes or prototypes of, you got the bear people out there and the cougar people, and You got the snakes in the grass, and you got the outlaws, and you got the bandits, and you got everything that they had to look out for in the Old West, only it's just kind of changed dimensions, you know. So you should consequently think about putting your mindset in that buckskin mentality of tracking, you know, a different kind of tracking, different kind of scouting. And that's kind of what I get into sometimes when I talk about the world situations. But I don't want to get overblown on it, because, like I said, when I see these other guys railing on and politically, there's always something there that you'll see. There's two guys in particular, you know who I'm talking about, because I've talked about, and I've seen you watching their channels. I've seen people on here. But again, one talks about liberty, hint, hint, and the other talks about watching the USA, you know. But both of them have a little flag there. You ever notice that? A little flag. A little American flag behind them. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it, sometimes? Because you got to be careful, people. Remember that old saying. Remember that old saying. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Okay? And then look at their hits. 3,000-4,000. Just some food for thought. Not trying to disparage anybody from watching whatever they want to watch. But that's why I feel obligated to come on here. I didn't really even want to come on today. And this holiday thing, can we have the holidays? Can we have winter and fall without all this trash on overcoming us on the internet? Black Friday and before Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Jesus. And people never learn. They never learn. It's all like, let's go out on Black Friday. It ain't Black Friday anymore. You know what that stands for, don't you? Black Friday. People go out and they don't even know what it stands for. You know what it stands for? Darkness. No. Black Friday is supposedly putting everything in the black instead of the red. In other words, financially. If we have a good, if we sell enough, it will be in the black, whatever. You get my drift here? But I don't care how much they sell. If they were in the red, they wouldn't tell you. And then you got all the idiots that line up at the door, these places like Walmart and stuff for the big sales, and they overrun them. They overrun everybody else. Some people have even been trampled to death. I guess he got caught in a stampede. Yeah. So there you go. There's a analogy, a cross metaphorical reference. You had stampedes in the Old West too. Didn't want to get caught in one of them, a buffalo stampede or a stampede on the Bozeman Trail with the cattle. No, you didn't want to get caught in those, brother. You wouldn't be looking too good after that. And that's how some of these people look after they get caught in a Walmart stampede. It's still the Old West, people. Basically, nothing's changed. You got the black-hearted evildoers, and you got the good Indians, man. The Indians were cool. I don't care what the fuck people say. Oh, they fought amongst themselves and this and that. And you know what? You can put it where the sun don't shine. Their kind of wars were different. Okay, their kind of skirmishes and wars were honorable. Okay, they were almost harmless. Okay, because it wasn't about the industrial military complex, or it wasn't about making lots of money. It was more about the rights of manhood and little skirmishes, land, somebody grazing on somebody else's land or hunting on somebody else's territory, or I guess you could argue that any kind of war or any kind of skirmish is bad, but when they came up against the Bluecoats, the first thing that they noticed and the first thing that they said was, these people don't fight like we fight. They have no reverence, no honor. Sometimes the Indians would even let some of their enemies go if they fought well. And the real brutal stuff, the scalping and stuff that they attribute to Indians, that came from Mexicans. Got news for you, especially in Arizona. That's where that originated. Now, did they torture people? The Apaches did, yeah. After they were backed into a corner, but I won't even tell you what they did to some of their. I won't even go there. It was justified in a way. If you want to say anything like that's justified, but it was almost an act of self-defense, let's put it that way. It wasn't like murder. It was, yes, they killed people, but when you got hundreds and hundreds of people overtaking your land and your lifestyle and killing your families, it's almost more of an act of deterrence or self-defense. And another thing about Indians is that they would just hit and run sometimes. That's another thing they said about the Bluecoats. These guys they're not in it to just like deter, or they're in it to like wipe out, exterminate. Okay. That's what we see today, these same idiots. So nothing's changed, people. Anyway, I just thought I'd get this video out because some people like them. Some people like Thunder's videos. And I like talking about, I'm going to start talking more about native ways and the buckskin ways and not the men in black suits, Isn't there a movie about that? That's probably where I got that from. Men in black suits or something. I didn't see it. Oh, that's right. It had Tommy Lee in it. He's one of my favorites. I couldn't bring myself to watch that one, even though Tommy Lee was in it. He lives in Texas. He's a natural-born tracker. He's in some good movies, but that ain't one of them. So anyway, hope everybody makes it through the holidays without getting too depressed. Because it can be depressing. Like I say, if it was just the seasonal thing, without all the hype and the Christmas decorations and these people are in a mindset to where I think you know what I'm talking about. It's almost a rote memorization, or it's a ritual for sure. But there's no reverence anymore. if there ever was. I'm sure there was, but there's no reverence with, like, say, Christmas and Thanksgiving. And any holiday is just an excuse to, I don't know, get a day off from the grind. That's good. That's good, you know. Sometimes maybe that's better than the respite or whatever is better than thinking of it the other way, you know, with it's hard for me to think about Thanksgiving with the first Thanksgiving with the, you know, the boys and girls from the Mayflower came over and the Indians helped them and all that stuff and gave them food, and then they turned on them and butchered them and cut their hair and tried to force them into Christianity. So Thanksgiving turned out to be not a good thing. Okay. Welcome people with open arms and they turn on you type thing. And Christmas, well, shouldn't that be, you know, that feeling of like giving, like the Indian giveaway, the tradition of the giveaway, that's done all the time. It's done all the time. You know, that should be everyday thinking, people. So these holidays, to me, they're depressing in a way. I try to ignore them as much as possible, but oh, one other thing I wanted to mention before I go, that I saw a group of vets out here on the freeway bridge over the freeway, and they had a sign out there that said, "Stop the endless war. Stop the endless war." And they had a flag hanging down right next to the sign, and then it said, "Vets for Peace." And I went, yeah, that's what everybody should be doing. Leave it to the vets, man. The warriors that really know what war's about, have been there and done that, to get out there and drape a thing over the freeway where hundreds and hundreds of people can see it. And it says, you know, "Stop the endless wars." That's what we need, people. More of that. Take a lesson from vets, okay? It really did my heart good to see that. I really went, wow, that's awesome. Anyway, I'll leave it there today. Thunder likes talking to his friends out there, so that's the main reason I do these videos, and probably will be the main reason, and unless something earth-shakingly important comes along, I'm just going to kind of mosey in and out of here every once in a while. So I'll leave it there today. So continue walking the red road and having the faith and great spirit that somehow we shall overcome our enemy, which is the people with no reverence. So, Chante Ishte, which means from the one eye of the heart. This is Thunder.